Hello and greetings, and welcome back in chapter 13 of 14 chapters today. So we're really nearing the end here. Today we're going to be taking a look at Islam. There are over 1 billion Muslims in the world today, and Islam is second only to Christianity in the number of adherents worldwide. The vast majority of Muslims live outside of the uh, Arabic-speaking Middle East. Indonesia, in fact, is in Southeast Asia, is the world's most populous Muslim country, Muslim majority country, I should add. Islam is practiced, understood, and interpreted in diverse ways in many different countries, cultures, and communities. However, certain beliefs and practices can be considered universal parts of Muslim religious life. Most important of these is the monotheistic belief in the oneness of Allah, which is the Arabic term for God. Secondly, Muslims recognize Muhammad, who received the message of the Quran from God, as the final prophet in a long line of prophets sent to humanity by God. The Quran is believed to be the word of God and is the holy text of Muslims. So in this chapter, we're looking to understand the essential teachings of Islam and Islam's sacred sources. We're looking to get familiar with Muslim worship practice and Muslim ways of life, and also to learn about the historical development of Islam from the time of the Prophet Muhammad to the present. We want to understand the different ways in which Islam is practiced and understood, and to become also familiar with Islam as a growing religion in North America. So the teachings of Islam, the major teachings of Islam are contained in the Quran, the holy text revealed to the Prophet Muhammad. Significant teachings are also contained in the Sunnah, which is the record of the life of Muhammad as documented in Hadith literature. Muhammad lived from 570 to 630 CE, Common Era, and is believed by Muslims to be the final prophet in a series of prophets who received communication from God. Muhammad lived in the Arabian Peninsula and began receiving revelations of the Quran in 610 CE. Muslims believe that the Holy Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad for a period of over 20 years. The Quran, which means recitation, is considered by Muslims to be the literal word of God and was revealed to Muhammad in Arabic as an oral text. The Quran consists of 114 chapters, or sunnahs, which are arranged roughly in order of the longest to the shortest. The surahs of the Quran also contain the major teachings of the Quran, the oneness of God, who is eternal, uncreated, all-knowing, and all-powerful. The reality of the prophets as those who receive communication or major messages from God, the coming of the day of judgment, in which all humanity will be judged on their actions in this life, and the reality of the afterlife, and the extension or existence of angels who are helpers of God. So the Quran also contains many guidelines for moral behavior. The teachings of Islam are also contained in what is the second most important sacred source, the Sunnah, or the example of the life of Muhammad. Muslims know about how Muhammad lived his life through the Hadith literature, which contains reports collected by his close friends and family, who are known as his companions. The Hadith reports are collected into several authoritative collections. The history of Islam. Muhammad began preaching in Mecca after receiving the first revelations of the Quran. His preaching was controversial, however, and Meccan elites made trouble for the new Muslims. Eventually, Muhammad encouraged his followers to move to Medina in 622 CE, the Hijra. In Medina, Muhammad took on many new roles and oversaw political, social, and religious matters. Muslim rule spread rapidly across the Arabian Peninsula through both nonviolent political alliances and military conquests. By the time of his death, Muhammad was the leader of much of Arabia. When he died, most Muslims thought that Muhammad had not designated any kind of a successor. A minority believed that Muhammad had designated his young cousin Ali to succeed him, but the majority of Muhammad's companions chose Abu Bakr to lead the Muslim community. The leaders who came after Muhammad were not viewed as prophets. They were known as caliphs, who ruled as the representatives of God and the prophet and had both religious and political authority. The rightly guided caliph were Abu Bakr, then Umar, Uthman, and then finally Ali. After Ali was killed in 661 CE, Muawiyah claimed the caliphate. His leadership gave birth to the controversial, see if I get this right here, Umayyad dynasty. In 750 CE, the Abbasid revolution succeeded, and that removed the Umayyads. The Abbasids moved their capital to Baghdad, which became a cultural capital of the world. So by the end of the Abbasid Caliphate and the beginning of the 14th century, Islam was the majority religion from Spain and North Africa to Iran. After the fall of the Abbasids, several powerful Islamic empires arose. The Ottoman Empire, the Safavids in Iran, and the Mughal dynasty in India. In the 20th century, the nation state came to dominate the political organization of the world. Muslim leaders took different positions on the ideal relationship between religion and the nation state. Some Muslim nationalists and political leaders envisioned a close link between their ideals of new states and Islam. Their vision involved a state government based on the principles of Islam and Islamic law as the basis for the legal system. Other leaders sought to distance nationalist policy from Islam and favored European secular states as political models. From the 18th century to the present, many Muslim reform movements have developed. These movements were spearheaded by those who were concerned about what they viewed as a decline in Muslim communities and in Muslim power worldwide. Some focused on reforming Islamic religious practice and others on resisting colonialism. In the 20th century, one of the most influential contemporary movements has been the Muslim Brotherhood. In the modern era, Muslims around the world have been active in many social justice movements. Islam has two major branches, the Sunni and the Shia. The Sunnis make up the majority of Muslims worldwide, about 80%, and the Shia make up about 20%. Sufism, Islamic mysticism, is not a branch, but rather a dimension of Islam. The goal of a Sufi is to draw close to and personally experience God. However, unlike mystics of other religions, Sufis base this spiritual quest on the sources of Islam, namely the Quran and the example of Muhammad. So today, over 6 million Muslims live in the United States. The population is growing rapidly through immigration. However, there is also a large African American Muslim population that grew significantly in the 20th century. The Nation of Islam has played an important role in the United States Muslim community, but the majority of African American Muslims are not members of the organization. Islam as a way of life. What does it mean to be a practicing Muslim? What does one do on a daily basis? Most Muslims consider the 5 pillars to be the essentials of Muslim religious practice. The Shahada, or declaration of faith, in which a Muslim states that there is no God but one, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. B, the daily prayer, or the Salat, which devout Muslims perform 5 times each day. C, almsgiving, or Zukat. D, fasting the month of Ramadan, during the month of Ramadan. And E, making the pilgrimage to Mecca, or the Hajj, once in one's life, if possible. The Islamic calendar dates from 622 CE, when Muhammad and the first Muslims moved from Mecca to Medina in a migration known as the Hijra. There are 2 major festivals in the Islamic year: the Feast of Fast Breaking, which concludes the month of Ramadan, and the Feast of Sacrifice, which follows the Hajj season. Muslims believe that God established a wide-ranging set of guidelines for human beings to follow, and these guidelines are known as the Sharia, and the literal translation of the Arabic term Sharia is the road or way. In English, it's most often translated as Islamic law. However, the Sharia encompasses a much broader range of legal activity than what is normally associated with law in the Western world. The most important sources of Sharia are the Quran and the Sunnah. Marriage and family life are the cornerstones of Muslim communities. Devout Muslims who strive to follow the example of the Prophet in their daily lives consider Muhammad to have set the example of marriage and have been the ideal husband and father. In Islamic belief, men and women are considered equals in the eyes of God. And when we consider the historical context in which it was revealed, the Quran introduced many new legal rights and privileges to women. However, there is much variation in the way in which gender roles are interpreted throughout Muslim culture. In the 19th and 20th centuries, reformers sought to improve women's status in Muslim countries and cultures. Many reforms focused on marriage and divorce rights and the status of women in Islamic law. Modern environmental awareness and activism among Muslims have deep roots in the Quran. And in the contemporary period, numerous thinkers have emphasized the importance of protecting the environment as a part of both a Muslim's religious obligation. Next time we meet, we will wrap it up. We'll be taking a look at some of the new reform movements or new religious movements. Okay, so next time. So in the meantime, again, study well, and we will talk to you next time. Right, bye-bye.